Right, what I want to show you today is how to change the oil, the gearbox oil, on a Fiat Ducato motorhome. Mine's an 05 motorhome, 2.8 GTD. So yours, if you've got one of those, or a Citroen Relay, Boxster or anything of those, that'll fit. You're going to need to get yourself one of these. It's an 8mm. It's an 8mm square drive, like type socket type thing. They fit various plugs, sump drain plugs, etc, etc. So you buy a set usually of those. This one in particular that fits this vehicle is 8mm. You can see there, 8mm. So what I'll do now is pause the video and I'll get under the gearbox and I'll show you exactly what you need to do. Right, we're under the gearbox now, and as you can see, this here is where you need to put your drive, and you slacken off the gearbox drain plug. Now you may have it up on the ramps, or you may just have it up on the side jack. I've already drained the gearbox oil out of this vehicle because I changed the drive shaft last week. So basically, get it up as high as you need to drain the oil. Undo this sump drain plug here on the gearbox, which is located, if you look, that is the drive shaft underneath on the near side. If you follow the drive shaft where it goes into the gearbox, you'll see the drain plug, and you can tell it's the drain plug because it'll be shaped just like that, and that socket that you need will fit into there. So get it up high enough. There's about 10 inches from that on the ground as it is flat. So if you've got a flat tray, oil tray, that'll hold 2.8 litres of gearbox oil, then you don't need to jack the vehicle up. You can slide under like I have done. The vehicle's flat on the ground. You can undo that and drain it into a clean, fresh tray. The reason I ask you to drain it into a clean, fresh tray is because you want to remember how much oil you actually drain out of the gearbox. Because on these Ducatos, some of them have got 2 litres, some have got 2.2, some have got 2.4, some have got 2.6. You want to know the quantity of oil that you release from this sump drain plug. In my case, it was 2.4 litres. Now what I did, I googled it and I found that the average sump drain, the quantity is 2.7. Sorry, mine was 2.5. So 2.7 is only 200 mils more, and the consensus is you put extra in so that it lubricates the fifth gear ratio. So I'll get back above the vehicle now and I'll show you what you need to do from there. Right, now we're on the top of the vehicle now, and as you can see, it's a 2005 Fiat Ducato 2.8 GTD. What you need to do, and I've loosened all these screws off to show you, so it makes it an easier video to make. Now the first thing you need to do is to remove this clip. This is on the air intake, so you can see this is a, you'll need to break that loose and remove that clip. So then you'll need to follow the pipe work along. You'll come to another clip here. These have all been opened up to show you. So you need to remove that clip also. You then need to come to the air filter, and there'll be 4 screws, 4 Phillips screws. Now I've already loosened these, so it makes it a little easier to make the video, as I said. So you need to remove the 4 screws that's in the top of the air intake. There's 2 at the front, and then if you pull the air filter forward, it'll open up enough for you to get the other 2, which are located, one is there at the back and one is in the corner. If you pull the filter forward, it'll come off. You then need to remove the top of the air filter, and then that'll expose the filter element. You need to remove the filter element, as so. And you also need the pipe that you've took the clips off. You need to pull that from the housing, like so. And at the other end of the housing where it goes into the air filter, you need to remove that also, like so. And then you've removed this part. So you've removed the top of the air filter housing, which is here. You've removed the pipe work, which you removed 2 clips from, and you've removed the filter. You'll also need to get yourself some Jubilee clips to replace the clips that you've had. Now these are 100mm. They cost about 3 or 4 quid for 5, so you only need 3, so you'll need to get yourself some of those. Right, you then need to remove if you look down the side of the bottom of the air filter, there's another Jubilee clip with a piece of pipe weight that comes from the side of the engine. You need to remove that pipe like so, and then the whole air filter element will just remove from the vehicle like so. The whole of the air filter element is removed like so. Simple as that. That took about 10 minutes or 15 minutes to unscrew all the screws. You'll actually need a long screwdriver to get down to the bottom hose to refit that. And then if you go back into the engine bay, if you look down to the bottom of the engine bay, this is the third clip that you would have had to undo. On mine it had a Jubilee clip, on yours it may be another one of those sealed clips from the factory. So that is the third Jubilee clip that you'll need. That fits onto a big piece of ducting. And then what you're looking for, right down, you need to move that piece of pipe in, this big piece of pipe in, you need to pull that back like so, and that will in turn, just bear with me, that will in turn reveal I don't know if you can see there, right at the very end of my finger, you'll see here, just here, you'll see a little black plastic cap. That is the black plastic cap that fits over the gearbox breather. You can't fail to see it, because once you've moved that piece of pipe out of the way, I know it's difficult to see here, the top of the tube is there. You will see it when you've removed the air filter, you'll see it because there's nothing else that looks like it. That is the piece of pipe that you need to take off, and that is the breather for the gearbox. And you can see it's about a ½ inch. In the centre there's a ½ inch little fit over, and that plugs into the top of the gearbox. So I'll pause the video and I'll show you then what we need to do. Now, what you're going to need, if you can get yourself an old gearbox oil bottle, or if you're buying your 3 litre of gearbox oil, this isn't the oil that I bought. This just happens to be some gearbox oil that I had left over from another job. You need to get the container that gearbox oil came in, and you need to take off the top. They usually come with a little plastic hose on the top of the gearbox oil bottle. You need to take that filler cap with a hose, what you would normally fill a normal engine with the gearbox, and you need to get yourself a piece of garden hose. Now, the piece I've got in particular is probably about a metre, just over a metre long. And you can see it's a piece of ordinary garden hose, which works out to be about 13mm in diameter, which just fits in top of the gearbox breather. So you need to then tape that piece of garden hose to the filler pipe of the gearbox, like so. Like so. You then need to take your piece of hose, and on this end of the garden hose you'll see I've put a piece of electrical tape, and I've left about just over a ½ inch on there, because way down there in the bottom of the filler pipe, and I'll try and touch it with the end of the hose so you can see it. Don't know if the camera will pick it up. You need to plug the end of the hose pipe into the top of that filler pipe. I just can't, the camera just will not pick it up, I'm afraid, but it is there, believe me. You can maybe see it now, it's just right there, the top of it is just right there. And you need to push the top of your hose, garden hose, into the top of that recess there, into that hole in the top of the gearbox, the breather. And it will, this hose pipe will fit, and you can push it in. And the reason I've put that piece of a mark on, the reason that mark on is there, so that I know once the green's disappeared, it's a half an inch into the filler, because you don't want your gearbox oil leaking out. So that will actually show you that that's gone in there far enough for it not to seep out. So I'll just pause the video for a moment and then I'll show you how we go about filling it. Right, on the Fiat Ducato, it states in the book you need 75/85 gear oil. Now I bought this this gear oil. There's 4 litres in here, and the Ducato sensor says 2.7 litres, so I've got plenty of oil in that container. Now that cost about £34. You can choose to put whatever oil you want in, but I put the recommended gear oil in there, which is GL4. It says a GL4, and I'm happy to put that in. I don't want to be paying a fortune for the gearbox oil. This has been in 20 years and it's never bothered, 16 years rather, and it's never bothered the gearbox yet, so I'm happy to put that in. So you need to get your gearbox oil, you need to get your old container, and we know from the amount of oil that we drained out of the gearbox, we need 2.7 litres. Now I'm not going to keep showing you how to fill this up, because you can fill that up. The bottle's marked on the end of the bottle, and 3/8 of 24. This holds clearly. This bottle's marked to 800 ml. 800. It's marked 800. I don't think you can see that there. So I'm quite happy to fill that up 3 times to 800, and that'll give me 2.4 litres. Now I'm going to put 2.7 litres in this, but I'll put 2.4 litres in for the time being, because that's easy to measure. Three of those full, and I'll show you how we go about doing that. Just bear with me. Right, now you'll see I've made a funnel out of an old lemonade bottle. I'm all on a budget here, so if you're on a budget the same, you need to pop your funnel into the top. Now what I generally do, I generally put it in a cardboard box full of old paper, because if you spill this oil you don't want it all over your driveway. So I'm going to fill it up to 800, and then I'll pause the video and I'll show you what happens after. Right, I've filled up the bottle, as you can see, with my little bit of tube taped on and my hose pipe taped on, which is about 1.5 meters. You'll gauge how long a piece you need, and if you look at the bottle there, you'll see it's 800 ml. Perhaps you can't see because I've got an awful problem with the sun. Believe me, that is 800 ml to that bottle. Now I need to fill that bottle 3 times. That'll give me 2.4 millilitres. So I'll top that up later on. But what I want to show you now is how to connect that up to your thingy. So you'll bring your pipe over. You'll stand your bottle into the corner where your air filter normally goes, and then you will feed your hose pipe down into the bottom of the engine, above the gearbox, like so. Now this is going to be very difficult for me to do while I'm making the video and trying to do the oil all together, but if you can look down there, right there, just off camera there, just slightly there, you can see it quite clearly now. That black object there is the breather. You'll see that quite clearly when you've got your engine filter air filter removed. You need to push your hose into the end of that, right the way in, so that it comes up at least to where the tape is. If it's not where the tape is, you'll end up with the gearbox oil running out over the top of your gearbox. So push that hose, and believe me, you might have to slightly adapt a piece of hose that you've got that you know will fit into that breather, which is right there at the end of my finger. You can see it quite clearly there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug the hose in, and then I'm going to show you what happens after that. Right, now if you look, you'll see I've actually got the hose pipe connected onto the top of the breather pipe for the gearbox. You can see that's where it fits. That's where your hose pipe fits. It's pushed into that hole. You get yourself a piece of hose that will fit, or any other jerry built setup that you want to use. At this end we've got our gearbox oil. It's in our bottle. And all we do is turn it upside down like so, and just give it a little squeeze every now and again, and that will squirt the oil into the gearbox, following down the hole, and it will go in there. May very well gravity feed. I don't know if you can see there now. I've already got 200 knots. Don't try and force it in. Just let it take its time. Let it just trickle into their gearbox, down to the bottom. Take a check that there's nothing coming out. And we know that because if you've measured the gearbox oil, when you drained it, you want to know exactly what you took out, because you want to know exactly what you're going to put back in. So don't guess it, because there's a reason why it has a certain amount of oil in there. And the consensus is with these Fiat Ducatos is that on the fifth gear, some of them was not getting enough lubrication. So they changed the amount now. If you Google it now, the consensus is that you put 2.7 litres in. Now you can sit here all afternoon and let that trickle in. You can just give it a little squeeze, let the air into the bottle, and it will actually filter through. You can hear it guggling, and it's going. And that is the first 800ml that's going in there. It may take you 5 minutes of time, but you're not in a rush. Don't squirt it in, because it'll just end in disaster. You'll end up wasting all your gearbox oil. That it's not cheap, 34 quid for 4 litres, so you don't want to be running it out onto the road. And I hope that's helped you with changing the gearbox oil. That's half of it now. 400ml's gone in there now. If I put an oil in the top of the cap here, in the top of the bottle, the oil would run quicker, but then I wouldn't be able to use the bottle again because it would just leak out. So I don't put a hole in. I just let the air suck itself in. You can hear it going through. Give it a squeeze, nice and gently. It'll flow in there. And if you look down at the bottom of the gearbox, that's all flowing in there nicely. There's no oil leaking. Can you see the pipe there very clearly now? And that's where it's running into. So I'm going to put 2.7 litres into this Ducato gearbox. It's a 5-speed JTD 2.8, 16 years old, and hopefully that's helped you making your gearbox oil change after a drive shaft or anything other reason. Even if you just want to change the oil. I had to change the drive shaft, and the refitting is just do it exactly opposite. Use your new Jubilee clips, and you'll be right. So thank you for watching. If you like it, please subscribe. I've got a couple of other videos, so if you like it, just give us a like, and if not, give us a comment, because I'll answer all your comments, and hopefully that'll help you out. Thanks for watching.